My name is Daniel Harris, and I never thought that the woman who gave me life, the one person I believed would always have my back, would become the source of the deepest betrayal I've ever faced. Growing up in Manchester, I wasn't born with privilege. My dad worked 2 jobs, a delivery driver by day and a night shift guard by evening, while my mum, Margaret Harris, handled the home and raised me and my younger sister, Emily. From the outside, we looked like a picture-perfect family. But what no one really knew was how much my mum thrived on appearances. How much she cared about what people thought more than what we actually felt. She always wanted to be seen as the perfect mum. Adored by neighbors, praised by relatives, and respected by her friends at church. I admired her for years, thinking she sacrificed everything for us. And maybe she did once. But over time, I started noticing the cracks. She wasn't happy with small gestures. Nothing was ever enough. If I bought her flowers for Mother's Day, she complained they weren't roses. If I cooked dinner, she would smirk that the meat was overdone. And when I landed my first decent job in London as a software engineer, she began making comments like, "Now you'll finally be able to do something real for this family instead of just looking after yourself." At first, I brushed it off as banter. But the truth was clear. To her, my success wasn't mine. It was hers to claim, her entitlement. 2 years ago, after saving diligently, I decided to give her something she'd always dreamed about. A luxury trip to Italy. She used to talk endlessly about seeing Rome, walking the cobbled streets of Florence, and finally standing before the canals of Venice. It was her lifelong fantasy, and I wanted to make it real. I didn't mind spending the money. It was about $6,200 for the full trip, flights, 5-star hotels, tours, meals included. I even arranged a spa day for her in Tuscany. When I presented the surprise, she cried, hugged me tightly, and said it was the greatest gift a son could ever give. For once, I felt like I had done something that finally made her proud. But pride quickly soured into something uglier. When she returned from the trip, her attitude changed. Instead of gratitude, she seemed emboldened. She'd bragged to everyone about the trip, but not as if it was a gift from me. She made it sound like she had earned it, like it was her own accomplishment. At family gatherings, she'd slip comments like, "Daniel finally learned how to treat his mother right. About time too." My sister Emily noticed it too, whispering later, "She's acting like you owe her the world." And then it got worse. About 3 months later, during a Sunday family dinner, my mum dropped a bomb in front of everyone, relatives, neighbors, even her church friends. She tapped her glass, stood up, and with a sweet smile said, "I want to thank my son for the trip, but also remind him that supporting your mother is not a one-time thing. A good son provides for his mother regularly. So I've decided, he will be giving me $1,000 every month from now on. After all, if he can spend over $6,000 on a holiday, surely he can spare a little for his dear mum." The room erupted in laughter and cheers as if it was some kind of joke. But she wasn't joking. She looked right at me, her eyes sharp, daring me to refuse in front of everyone. My face burned with humiliation. Emily looked shocked, whispering, "She can't be serious." But Mum was dead serious. She framed it as if I was selfish if I said no. In that moment, something inside me cracked. She hadn't just embarrassed me. She had tried to own me publicly, turning my gift into a weapon against me. I kept quiet that night, biting my tongue while everyone looked at me like I was some spoiled brat for not instantly agreeing. But I made a promise to myself. If my mother wanted to humiliate me publicly, then she was going to learn what public humiliation really felt like. That night was the birth of my plan for #sweet revenge. The night of that family dinner played in my head for weeks like a broken record. I could still hear the clinking of glasses, the laughter, the way my mum smirked as she turned me into her personal cash machine in front of people who didn't even know the full story. And the worst part? Some relatives started calling me selfish afterward, parroting her words. "Daniel, she's your mother, it's your duty. If you can pay for a holiday, surely you can give her $1,000 a month. She raised you, don't forget." Every conversation felt like a dagger. Nobody asked how I felt. Nobody cared that I had worked 80-hour weeks, skipped meals, and lived frugally to save up that $6,200 for her trip. They only saw the narrative she spun. The dutiful son who finally paid back his debt to the woman who raised him. But Emily, my sister, stood by me. One evening, she came over to my flat in London and said quietly, "Daniel, I think Mum's been planning this. She's been bragging to her friends for months that you'll take care of her. It's like she's using your success as her trophy." I clenched my fists. Then it's time she learned success isn't hers to own. Emily leaned closer. "What are you going to do?" I didn't answer at first. My brain was racing, turning over every slight, every word, every humiliation. I couldn't just stop talking to her. That would make me look like the bad guy. No, if she wanted to embarrass me in public, then I'd give her a show she'd never forget. I just had to find the right stage. The opportunity came quicker than I expected. My mum loved hosting dinners, big, over-the-top affairs where she invited neighbors, family, and anyone she could impress. She was planning another one for her church ladies' circle in just a month's time. Perfect. But first I needed evidence. Emily helped me. She had access to Mum's Facebook and WhatsApp through her laptop because Mum always forgot her passwords and made Emily set things up for her. One night, Emily showed me a group chat where Mum bragged to her friends. "Daniel owes me for everything. $1,000 a month is the least he can do. He should be grateful I gave him life. Honestly, I raised him to succeed. Now it's my turn to enjoy the rewards." I told him in front of everyone. He couldn't even say no. What could he do? He looked so embarrassed. I felt my jaw tighten. This wasn't a mother's love. This was entitlement, plain and ugly. That's when the plan crystallized. Step 1. Collect every single message, every brag, every voice note where she mocked me. I compiled them neatly into a folder. Step 2. Trace the money. I knew she liked to boast about her church charity donations, but Emily whispered that Mum wasn't donating half as much as she claimed. She was pocketing funds meant for the poor. That needed confirmation. Step 3. Choose the night of her big dinner, where she'd have the largest audience possible, to reveal everything. But revenge without precision can backfire. I needed elegance. Over the next month, I played the obedient son. I visited her more, smiled, even hinted that I was considering her $1,000 monthly demand. She lit up, thinking she had broken me. What she didn't know was that every smile was another nail in the coffin of her carefully built reputation. On the night of her big dinner, the house was buzzing. She had at least 30 guests, family, church friends, neighbors. She wore pearls, her best dress, and introduced me to everyone like I was her prized possession. "This is my son Daniel, the one who made my dream Italian trip happen. Such a blessing, isn't he?" I played along, shaking hands, forcing smiles. But inside, my heart was beating like a drum. Emily gave me a subtle nod from across the table. Everything was ready. Dinner went smoothly until dessert. That's when Mum decided to repeat her favorite performance. She clinked her glass and stood up, her voice sweet but loud enough to command the room. "I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. And once again, I must praise my son Daniel. He has been such a blessing. After that wonderful Italian trip, we've agreed he'll be supporting me with $1,000 every month. Isn't that just the sweetest thing?" Gasps of admiration. Applause. Some women even looked at me with envy, whispering about what a good son I was. My fists tightened under the table. She looked at me smugly, expecting me to nod like a good little boy. Instead, I stood up. "Actually, Mum," I said, my voice calm but carrying through the room, "that's not the full story." Her smile faltered. The room went quiet. All eyes were on me. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the Bluetooth speaker in the corner, and pressed play. Her voice filled the room. "Daniel owes me for everything. $1,000 a month is the least he can do. He should be grateful I gave him life." Gasps. Murmurs. People looked confused, shocked. Mum's face went pale. I didn't stop there. Another recording. "Honestly, I raised him to succeed. Now it's my turn to enjoy the rewards." The whispers grew louder. Some church ladies exchanged horrified looks. And then the final nail. I told him in front of everyone, he couldn't even say no. What could he do? He looked so embarrassed. The silence afterward was deafening. Every eye turned to my mum, her face red, hands trembling. I looked straight at her. You wanted to use me for your own pride. You wanted to humiliate me in public. Well, Mum, here's the truth in public. The room erupted. Not in applause this time, but in judgment. People shook their heads, muttered, some even left in disgust. Emily sat quietly, watching justice unfold. But I wasn't finished. Because revenge wasn't just about exposing her words. It was about exposing her deeds. I leaned forward, my voice cold. Oh, and while we're talking about truth, maybe you should tell everyone how much of the church's donation money you've actually been keeping for yourself. Her eyes widened in terror. The room went dead silent again. That was only the beginning. Because I had proof. The room was so silent I could hear my own heartbeat thudding in my chest. My mother's smile was gone, replaced by a trembling jaw and wide, horrified eyes. The guests looked from me to her, their curiosity sharpened by my words. I pulled out a small folder I had brought in my jacket. With deliberate calm, I laid it on the table and opened it. Inside were copies of bank statements, screenshots, and transaction logs that Emily had helped me gather over the past month. Since Mum loves telling everyone what a saint she is, I began, my voice cool. Let me share the truth. For years, she's bragged about donating hundreds to church charities. But here's the real story. She only gave a fraction of what she claimed. The rest? Straight into her own account. Gasps filled the room. One of the church ladies, Mrs. Whitmore, a sharp-tongued woman with a long memory, snatched up the paper and squinted at it. Her face turned pale. These are the church's donation records. Margaret, is this true? My mother's hands shook. That's a misunderstanding. But I didn't let her finish. With a flick of my thumb, I played one more recording on the speaker. Her voice again, arrogant and dripping with greed. They'll never know. I tell them I donated £500, but I only put £100 in the pot. The rest goes in my pocket. Perks of being the treasurer, right? The room exploded in outrage. Gasps, mutters, voices rising. One woman stood up in fury. You lied to us. You stole from the poor fund. Another man shook his head. And all this time you boasted about being a selfless giver. Disgraceful. My mum's face drained of color. She stumbled back against the wall, her eyes darting around, searching for sympathy, but all she found were condemning stares. I stepped closer, my voice steady, every word sharp as glass. You wanted to humiliate me, Mum. You turned my gift into your weapon. Demanded I pay you every month like you owned me. You made me look like a fool in front of everyone. But tonight the truth is yours to own. Her lips trembled. Daniel, please. But there was no pity left in me. You wanted $1,000 every month? Well, now you'll have nothing. Because once the church hears about this, and they will, you'll lose your position, your reputation, and the respect you've been feeding off for years. You wanted to show me off as your trophy? Congratulations. Now everyone knows what you really are. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then came the whispers, the shaking heads, the first guests standing to leave. My mother, once the queen of appearances, was left standing in tatters, her power stripped away in the very place she had sought to shine. Emily came to my side, her eyes gleaming with pride and sorrow. She whispered, she had it coming. I nodded. By the next morning, the fallout was already in motion. The church called an emergency meeting. Her friends cut her off. Neighbors whispered about her greed every time she stepped outside. And as for the family? Half of them stopped speaking to her altogether. She tried calling me, begging, crying, even screaming down the phone, but I ignored her. I had given her a gift worth $6,200, a once-in-a-lifetime trip, a gesture of love. She had repaid me with greed, humiliation, and betrayal. And for that, she lost everything. Months passed. My life moved on. My career grew stronger, my bond with Emily closer. My mother, on the other hand, became a shadow of her former self. Her pride shattered, her friends gone, her influence stripped away. She had no one left to manipulate. And me? I finally felt free. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't anger. It's letting someone choke on the truth they tried to bury you with.